Okay, while we wait for a few more minutes, I would like to thank the French-American Chambers of Commerce in Florida, because S4M has been a member for 3 years now, and we are very happy, and they have always supported us, so I think it's important to say it. Okay, so we have a few more attendees. I'm going to start slowly. Thank you everyone for joining. Today is your webinar about the drive-to-store, the state of drive-to-store advertising. I mean the COVID-19 crisis. I am Stan Coignard. I am the America CEO and co-founder at S4M. For those who are not familiar with S4M, we are helping brands to drive traffic to physical locations. What it means that we do it through mobile apps, where you will find ads that are relevant to you, hopefully, and we can expose a mobile user who is using any type of app and measure his real footprint in a physical location. And this is what we are going to discuss today. So if you have any question, you can definitely use the chat. We have Alison Moore and Ed Silan on the call, who will be able to answer your question while I'm still presenting the presentation. And at the end, we can have a very short session of Q&A. I just wanted to say that this webinar is recorded and you will benefit from the presentation afterward. So no need to take any notes or anything. Just focus on your questions and on the content. So first, we are all well aware that in this current climate, brands, non-essential businesses, and most of the population have experienced major financial setbacks. Most of the people across the US are under various shelter-in-place restrictions. We are not purchasing as we normally would, and of course, it affects revenue, sales, etc. But despite all of this, we do not believe that this should result in your brand cutting off communication with your customers through advertising or other channels. Obviously, if you are on this webinar, it's because you want to do something about it, and we are here to support those efforts. I truly believe that we have 4 weeks ahead to get prepared. So I'm not pretending to be an expert, but the first positive signals are here in Europe, and they will be soon in the US. Schools are reopening slowly, starting in May in certain states. But what is very interesting is that it will not happen at once. We cannot consider a state or the US or Europe as a whole. It will happen slowly, state per state, DMA per DMA. And that's why we think location data is just as important now as ever. You can easily imagine that when we entered this crisis, it did not happen like from one day to another. You can clearly see on this map that state per state, and we can feel this battle between President Trump and few governors about how to handle the situation. So it's exactly what it's about. So when we enter the crisis and when we will exit the crisis, it will be the same. We need to have the right capability to handle our ad strategy state per state or even city per city. So in this webinar, we look at the changes brought on by coronavirus, but also the location-based marketing and drive-to-store advertising, because truly this is where we can do something about it, and how to use location data to adapt your ad strategy. So of course, we can easily understand that consumer habits are still changing as we speak. The main focus for us at S4M is that the majority of Americans are spending more time using mobile devices since the beginning of this crisis and the outbreak in the US. It's massive. It's up from 40% in March 2020. And part of this behavior happens in app. So people are reading more news, they are gaming, they are watching TV, listening to radio, but everything is happening in app, in the app environment that I'm going to talk a lot. Those behaviors and those consumers' behavior, we can definitely assume that there is a massive boost on the digital media consumption, on mobile and tablets, on connected TV and streaming devices and services, social media, gaming, I said it, and so on. And of course, there is an increase of the e-commerce activity, traditional one, but also click and collect, drive-through, and so on. What is more important and more interesting, I think, that there is a real adoption by senior people in this crisis. And finally, we are looking on digital to fulfill our everyday needs. About food and grocery, that's a new thing, and also on online banking, and it goes to workout and meditation apps, because as everyone knows, it starts to be difficult to stay at home and with kids. So changes to consumer behavior results in first, people are avoiding crowded places, they are avoiding public transportation, and they are canceling trips, domestic flights. They are reducing visits to bar, restaurants, but it's not rocket science. People are just adapting to what is available, what is open, what is not, and they are just following the flow. So of course, most of the purchases are shifting from what we're consuming in bars and restaurants to what people need to buy in stores, because we still have stores open, such as grocery stores. So a lot of purchases are delayed and not only canceled, but delayed, waiting for the very moment when the economy will be back to business as usual. And that's very interesting. And there is an opportunity here to be more prepared about that. Now, against this situation, there is 90% of brands, advertisers, that have modified their ad spend and budget due to this outbreak. So they are basically stopping campaigns mid-flight. They are postponing campaigns for the time where this is pretty much behind us. And they are adjusting the media type usage and shifting bid budget among their media channels, of course. But what is interesting from my point of view is that we have experienced a 3 phases period. The first one was the shock. Basically, we did not realize that it was coming. We could not believe it. The economy stopped pretty much from one day to another. Then we had to organize our lives at a personal level because schools were closed, and at a professional level, and the majority of the population has discovered working at home. But now there is a last phase that is more about the action. What can we do about it? And that's the focus of today. Where to focus on our marketing efforts to run the business. Well, as I said before, we should stop considering our business as a whole. And location is key to do that. So users' location data, the way we use it in our drive-to-store platform, is key to first understand people's behavior based on their experience, their habits, their desire, but also to identify business opportunities. And this is how we reconcile consumers and brands. So location is changing the drive-to-store advertising landscape massively. And the reason for that is because location-based marketing has taken over the world. Think about it, from rideshare app to dating app, food delivery, hospitality, everything has changed. When we're expecting a content or a service, we want it now, and we want something that is close to us, at an immediate proximity from us. The way it works, so I just wanted to make it very simple. Basically, we are connected to thousands of applications. Those apps are free. We are all consuming free content and services on a daily basis. Of course, you can assume that those apps are living and surviving because of the advertising industry. So the point is, all those apps are sharing our location data with our user consent to better display a relevant ad. Because don't get wrong, we will be exposed to advertising anyway. The question is, do we prefer a relevant ad that is close to us, or do we want random ads? But if we do want relevant ads, we are sharing our location data among different other type of data. And when we can display those ads, at one point, we are able to engage a mobile user and to drive that user to a store. And we will measure the footfall of this user in a real physical location. Because if location is where you are in real time, locations are who you are, depending on your consumer journey from home to your office, to the stores you are shopping, and so on. So we can definitely see that there is a new battlefield out there that is now reality. From a marketer's perspective, there is a new battlefield. Think about it. Google, 20 years ago, has invented something genius, deciding that brands will have to fight for their name and fight for words related to their product. Well, today, the same way, a new battlefield is a reality. It's invisible, but it involves our day-to-day life in the real world. Brands will have to fight for locations and territories, strategic locations, such as airport, train station, business district, household, you name it. And all those locations are the perfect reflection of our behavior as a consumer. So what's the state of retail in 2019? And then we will bridge that to the location data. Well, first, 90% almost of sales are still happening in brick and mortar stores, okay? Nowadays, we are experiencing a very unique situation, but still we have 89% of sales that are still happening in brick and mortar stores. And the reason for that, it's at one point people enjoy it, and we can feel it now that we need to stay home. The majority of brands ad spend are here to support the drive-to-store tactics, and it's growing. And it's the same situation through all industries: grocery, restaurant, fashion, cosmetic and beauties. Most of them spend the majority of their ad spend to drive people to stores. So how can we adapt our strategy to this situation? And again, bear in mind that, especially for us at S4M, the smartphone is the primary screen. And I'm going to explain why. We have three ways to use the mobile phone. When I say mobile phone, it could also be a tablet. But basically, you have the drive-to store or drive-through where they remain open. So you can use the mobile device to bridge the online exposure to an ad and to the real traffic into your physical locations. Or you can drive to sites. If you have a website that is truly adapted to the mobile screen, or if you have a mobile asset such as an app to showcase your brands or your products. And there is a third strategy that is related to branding. During this time, you want to remain top of mind. And so you can engage your mobile users and you can retarget them after the crisis. In all those scenarios, location data is very, very important because that's the way, if you leverage location data, you can better understand the context in real time, starting with, are my stores open or closed? But not only, we can design profile based on a look back window of 90 days of the most visited locations. And that was before the crisis. We can take into account the situation per location, state by state, city per city, when we will exit slowly but surely this crisis. And our technology can do that in a very, very granular way because geofencing has evolved. Let's say that most of the people do it using a radius. If you want to target a certain area, you will have a radius targeting of, let's say, 2 miles. But 2 miles could be very different from Miami, where I'm based, New York City, Manhattan, Austin, Texas, and LA. So instead, we wanted to rethink the proximity targeting with a dynamic location targeting based on travel time. So the most important part is not what is the distance, but how much time do I need to go to a specific location? It could be a restaurant and I'm willing to spend, let's say, 5 minutes walking, or it could be a car dealership and I'm willing to spend 40 minutes driving. So we can better understand people's behavior. The same way, we could cross-reference a lot of location data to identify the right area with the highest affinity score to a certain audience. And again, the outcome of this is to better identify high potential zones for your business. In other words, a new business opportunity. So that's how it looks like. You can see this weird shape that is not based on the radius, like the 2 miles targeting, but is more based on the travel time. So you can see that it's following the main axis, driving distance. And the other thing that you can see on this example, I think it's Atlanta, on this example, is those red, orange, and yellow dots. That's the affinity score of certain audiences toward one POI, one point of interest, one location. The thing you want to do is also to rethink mobile user experiences. Depending on where they are they home, are they at the office, or are they commuting? Because you will not display the same type of content. Depending also on the connection type. Are they connected in Wi-Fi so I can display a video? Or are they connected in 4G or 3G? So I just want a very light ad unit. And depending also on the day and the time. So on the other parts of the context. What are they doing? Are they multitasking, watching TV, or doing something else? And therefore, so I'm going to try to launch this video. Yes, it works. You can, for instance, display a video, but at the end of the video, You have a video and card, so you can drive people to the closest store. And that's how you adapt the mobile user experience. We have other examples of, let's say you have an opening, a new store, or you are reopening your stores. We can have a countdown. Or you want to have a very engaging ad unit. So people will play with the ad unit, and it's just an excuse to spend few more seconds and engage mobile users. Or you want to display a video and then drive people to your online store or your online landing page. So all those experiences needs to be adapted not only to the user, but to the context itself. And sorry, one sec. That's what I was talking about. We need to focus on the efficiency and the optimization in real time. So what is the incremental traffic driven by the mobile campaign? Because we can make the difference between exposed people to a certain campaign and non-exposed people. And we can help you to answer one question. When I spend a certain budget on mobile media, how does it impact the traffic in stores? And we can identify new customers. When I talked about those red and yellow dots, they appear in a very random areas because people are commuting. And those opportunities are real and they should be addressed with a different ad units. Bottom line is that we need to engage customers and to drive them to stores. The way to do it is to reach the core audience, leveraging online and offline behavioral data. We need to capture their attention thanks to the adapted creative. We need to focus on the incrementality. We don't want to pay for organic visits, but we want to understand what is the impact of the mobile campaign against the TV campaign, against the out-of-home campaign. And we want to optimize towards the best visitation rates in real time. And one last advice, you should always pick a partner that is using a third-party measurement solution. Step away from vendor who are judge and jury. You need to own your measuring and monitoring solution. So as a brand, you need to remain in communication with your customers. And the reason for that, because the last GWI research about coronavirus, it was this month in April, 76% of American consumers approve of brands running promotions, loyalty perks, offers for customers during this time. 82% of American consumers approve brands providing practical information and tips. And same, 72% of American consumers approve of brands running advertising that shows how they are responding to coronavirus. So it's not every brands, but few examples out there. Taco Bell, who advertise its drive-through restaurants. We have this Challenger, very interesting. It's a swimwear brand, Somersault, who has transformed its regular customer service into an emotional support. So it's super, it's a very interesting case. We'll see how it goes. And of course, I believe most of you have heard about Ford, General Electric, and 3M, who are partnering together. We have L'Oreal, who changed part of his supply chain to provide a hydroalcoholic solution. we have LVMH, we have Gap, Zara. Again, every brand can do something, but not all of them will be able to do it within a short time. So it's really up to your brand. So the key message, of course, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one to have said it, but we cannot halt the advertising. We know during this very critical time, and you will have this Forbes article about that, during a recession, not only we should not stop advertising, but we should do more. There is this very interesting study that shows that basically if we advertise more, we can gain market share of 0.5 if we stay the same, or 0.9% if we increase our advertising strategy and ad spend. So bottom line, 3 things for your brand to keep in mind. 1, you can keep running your business where you can. It was true when the crisis hit the US. It will remain true when we will exit slowly the crisis, state per state, DMA per DMA, and at one point city per city, and there are ways to address that. The second part is, of course, if you can, move your local business online. And the third one, if you cannot do that, well, you still need to focus on the brand equity, on the brand awareness, so you remain top of mind, you still engage your consumers, you identify them, and you are in a better position to retarget them after the crisis. I just wanted to share with you a very simple step-by-step process to do that. If you want to start something, first send us the list of your store or your locations, your point of interest. We will pull device IDs, so that unique ID that belongs to every single phone, and that will help us to target a specific audience, and we'll let you know what's the volume we can reach out. We will cross-reference that with your DMA, where you can run a campaign. We will have our in-house studio team build the right engaging customer creatives. There is a shutdown. And we will run and optimize the campaign in real time based on a cost per visit KPIs. Finally, the whole idea is to boost customer visits to your stores and sites, helping to increase